Welcome to another day with she. She owns, she builds, she invests. She is me and she is you. We want to hear, what does she mean to you? Please let us know, what does this brand mean to you? Raise your hand, unmute yourself. Who's ready?
Don't be scared.
Don't be shy. Don't be scared. We're all family here, all right?
You don't want me to
got
call
one.
it. Yes. Yes, Janae.
She is powerful.
Yes. I love
She
that.
is me and she is you. We love it. Who else?
She is the designer of her own destiny.
Ooh, I love that.
I love that.
The question is, what does she mean to you? Yes.
What does she mean to me?
Yes.
Mhm.
In the sense of you guys?
Yeah, the brand.
Oh, this is my first time, so
Welcome.
We're excited.
I'll let you know after I get to know you guys.
Even better.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. We are getting ready to get this started. So I'm gonna go ahead and really quick share my screen to let you know about some things that we have cooking. The first thing, as you know, guys, we have our swag live, so you can already purchase any of the products in our website. So we're gonna put the link on the chat. Feel free. This is a good time to give some merchandise to your girlfriends. Here is the link as well, where you can scan the QR code. And also, for all of those who are in Houston, we're gonna launch our first brunch. It's gonna be on December 2nd, so we will love to see you there. Those who are in Houston, for those who are not in Houston, let us know on the chat, where do you want the next brunch to be at? We're definitely gonna take it to the other cities, so we would love to hear where you guys want us to host it. And last thing, we're gonna be having our event, our first conference in February in Dallas. So if you guys want to register, we have an extra discount code for $100 off with the code SHE. So if you're planning to be there, register. We're gonna put the link on the chat and use the code SHE. Thank you so much, and I'm gonna turn it to Maria.
Well, hello, ladies. I'm so excited to announce this next speaker. She is a motivational speaker, emotional resilience coach, internationally syndicated speaker, and the next great American Speak Off semifinalist. She is driven by personal experiences and a strong passion for empowering women. She runs a successful podcast, The Strong and Capable, and membership program, The Queen Circle. Brigette has said, it's time to put a stop to the cycles of shame and hurt, questioning our worth. It's time to understand who we are, where we are identity, and leading us and the action you need to get you there. She teaches emotional resilience tools for men and women who are seeking to live with purpose and meaning, as she opens doors for her clients to step into leadership roles with confidence while taking care of their mental health, spiritual, social, and emotional health, while strengthening their emotional resilience using her 3-step strong and capable process. She is Brigette Heller, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet her. I've been holding her hostage for maybe a year now. I'm excited to bring her to this group of ladies. Brigette, we are so excited to have you. And you're muted.
I am muted. I'm so excited to be here with you guys tonight. And Maria has been holding me hostage. She's like, not yet. You're going to come in the group, but not yet. It's funny.
I just wanted the group to be ready for you.
Well, here we are, guys. I hope you're ready.
Exactly. And Brigette, would you mind getting us started with your background and how you came up with the name Strong and Capable?
Oh, well, I mean, we can start there. I always feel bad when we start there because it's a little heavy. I'm just going to warn you all. But
I think they're ready for it.
I think you are too. I'm really excited to be here with you strong women tonight. It is fun to be in a group of strong women. That's just my favorite place to be. My family is a little bit like, well, it's Christmas, like Whoville. Okay. I'm the oldest of 7, military, grew up, moving everywhere. So Christmas here is a little wild. Picture Whoville, picture long tables. My mom's an organ player with a big full organ in her house. Like, it's loud, it's glittery, it's a little crazy. And 10 years ago, we were sitting at table and we get a call at Christmas, and we heard and learned that the sister right under me had aspirated and was in the hospital. She couldn't make Christmas dinner, and she wasn't going to make it anywhere. She was making it to the hospital in an ambulance. So you can imagine the chaos that ensued. We jumped in a car, drove overnight. She was 12 hours away from me, and I sat at her side while she deteriorated from the inside out. Now, let me tell you something about this human. Aubrey was my best friend in the whole world. She cried on carousels and screamed on roller coasters. She loved Diet Coke, and she hated the color pink, hated it, thought it was horrendous. I love it. I'm very glittery. And she was my other half. But Aubrey was in a wheelchair and had cerebral palsy and was deaf. So she was not always seen by the world, only by us. And I lived my life to help her be seen and loved. I took her to show and tell. I rode the bus with her. She was everything. So watching her deteriorate in this way was devastating. It wasn't just hard. It was devastating, because so much of my identity was completely wrapped up in her. And as she was getting ready to pass away, she was getting scared. And I am a religious person, and I believe in an afterlife. And honestly, this freaked me out. I was really upset. And I had the thought, Brigette, she is not scared about what's next. She's scared about what will happen to you when she leaves. And so I wanted to offer her comfort. So I rubbed her arms and stroked her face. And I said, Aubrey, you are strong and capable. You can let go. We love you. We will always love you. It's okay to let go. Aubrey, you are strong and capable. And I kept saying this over and over to her, probably for me as much as her, until she took her last breath. The months after, I lost myself completely. I did not know who I was without her. It didn't matter what I had that was good in my life or hard. None of it mattered. It didn't matter the things that I enjoyed or brought me peace. None of it actually worked anymore, because I didn't know who I was without her. And so I found myself 3 months after she passed away in church, listening to the preacher talk about, I don't know what, because I remember thinking in my head, I'm very sassy. You guys probably already picked up on that. I remember thinking, I don't care what you're saying. None of it matters. None of it matters, because I don't have her. And in that moment that I was ready 100% and at peace to let go of my own life, I felt her put her hands on my shoulders and say, Brigette, you are strong and capable. It's time to get up and go to work. Brigette, you are strong and capable. Get up and go to work.
Wow.
And so 10 years. Yeah,
Wow.
It's been 10 years of understanding. What does that mean? What does that look like? And what is the work even?
Yeah,
So that's where it started.
That is an incredible story.
Hits me every time.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Tell us what that meant to you. You know, obviously you had to process everything that was going on, but how did you get up and go to work? What did that mean to you?
Well, getting up and going to work, Aubrey was a light. So if I'm going to go to work in her name and in her honor, it's how can I be a light in the world? What is that? And how can I find myself? Because you can't be a light if you don't know who you are. Mm-hmm. So the strong and capable is built on three things that the work is really for all of us. We have to know who we are. We have to know where we're going, and we have to understand how we're going to get there. Who you are is identity. Where you're going is the confidence. So who you are is hope and identity. Where you're going is confidence and empowerment. A lot of us are in the middle. And then when you see those people who are killing it in life, it's because they understand how to get there. And that's impact. And so that's the foundation of the strong and capable. That was what I had to learn for myself. And then understand how to teach other men and women the same process of finding self, understanding what the journey looked like, and how can they make an individual impact in the world.
Oh my goodness, that's so good. And I know we started off kind of like, big story. I know. I'm all over the place today. It's how I love to work with Brigette. She's, again, one of my favorites. And I hope you can see her authentic nature that comes out when she's just ready to just turn on and talk about something that's so vulnerable for her. But how do you continue to show up authentically, Brigette?
Well, by making a fool of myself, honestly. Like I just roll with it. The first time I went live on social media, I cried before and after. The first time I was on a other podcast other than my own, my husband brought me a Haagen-Dazs peanut butter chocolate. If you're ever in the same room as me, that works. That does magic. But he brought me that because we had to celebrate, because I cried before and after that too. I needed that ice cream as reward. So you show up authentically by doing it again and again until I don't cry anymore. I go, if you follow me on social media, you'll see it's like, whatever I am, because it's not about me anymore. So you have to show up enough that it stops being about you. And it takes time to get to that spot. It's a process. It's a growing. You don't start there. Nobody starts there. Everyone has ego. And I call it like a distilling process. You get distilled into the purest sense of who you are and what you're meant to be and how you can serve the world. And as you go through that process and all the ego is purified out, then it doesn't matter anymore. You can show up just as you are and totally at peace with it.
That's amazing. And then you were telling us yesterday about your transformation versus from fear versus transformation. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so like I said, a lot of tripping and falling. And I even like to joke among close friends, and now all of you, so you're now my close friends. I know like the cost of my ego. I know how much I had to spend and put myself in debt and pay for programs and all these things until I was ready to let go of the junk. Like I know the cost of my ego to the dollar, and it's high. It was high. So getting over fear wasn't easy. And anyone who's like, just do it. Sorry, they still probably got some distilling to do if they're being honest. So when I started the podcast, I was in a class actually with what was then my current mentor. And she said, you're going to start podcasts. And I was like, nope. I hate the sound of my voice. No one can say my name. Literally, if you listen to my podcast, half the people do not say it right. No one can say my name. And if I start telling my truth, I will lose every friend I've ever made in my life. They're just gonna walk away. And it was still very much you're going to start a podcast. You're going to start a podcast. And even my own husband, who guides, he deals with this every day. He was like, Brigette, you're going to start a podcast. So I'm in my closet and I'm on my phone because I didn't have any fancy equipment like I do now. I didn't have any of the programs. All I had was my little phone here. And I'm in my closet trying to kick the kids and the dogs out and say like the message of my heart. And I'm recording and I'm deleting and I'm recording and I'm deleting and I'm recording and I'm deleting. And finally I was like, this is ridiculous. An hour and a half later, I'm still in my closet, getting hit by the dresses and the sparkly shoes. Like, this is stupid. And I throw my hands in the air and I was like, God, you know what? This is stupid. You asked me to do this and I can't do it because I am so scared. I am so scared of what will happen. And I don't like the sound of my voice. And I went down my whole list. We all have our list. And the words that came back were, Brigette, switch the 2 letters. What? That is a stupid answer. Brigette, switch the 2 letters from scared, SCARED, to sacred, SACRED. Because when you are scared, but you step forward anyway, you are stepping onto transformational ground, and transformation is sacred. That was episode 1. So you want to talk about a journey? I'm episode, I think 108 now, 5 seasons. And what I know is that fear, instead of being terrifying now, it becomes verifying. Because when you're stepping forward and you're feeling that feeling, you're like, oh, it's time for transformation. It's time for that distilling process. It's time to become next evolution of self. And that, now it's exciting, right? It's not terrifying, it's exciting. So that's the journey on that one.
These are just so many great nuggets. And for a lot of the ladies who are just meeting you for the first time tonight, share with us some of these tools that you've been giving on your podcast. Because obviously you've been doing this now for 5 seasons and you've got over 100 podcasts that they can all go and listen to, of course. But share with us tonight just some of the tools that you had shared with us the other day when we were on our call together.
Yeah. So tools becomes essential because, well, first tool that I think I've already spoken about, but I'm just going to point out, be honest. If you're not radically honest with yourself, you're going to stay in the same cycle and you're gonna be like, why am I not progressing? Why are things not moving forward? I'm working so hard. It's not happening. You have to be in full integrity with self, full radical integrity with self. So that's the first tool. And a lot of people do that through journaling or meditation. So the practices, there's always little tweaks to it. Can you all hear that? I live in a circus. I'm
How
sorry.
many dogs do you have at your house, Brigette?
Anyway, so meditation, prayer, journaling. I created this guy. Oh, let's see if it'll do it. You never know.
Right in front of your face.
Right in front of me. Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so this is the Fresh View, and it's on Amazon. It's the Fresh View Journal, and this one's mine that I created, and it's the process that I went through, have been going through for 25 years. When I first had depression the very first time, and ended up in a mindset spiritual class, and I learned this process, and then over 25 years, I've been distilling and recreating it, right? I know, they're wild. They think they're keeping me safe, but they're not. So this Fresh View it's a thought journal. What are you thinking? You have to identify the thoughts that are up there. If you're going to be in full integrity and rewrite this, what are you thinking? And then what is the pattern? You're going to start to see patterns. The first time I did this for myself, I literally, this is embarrassing, some of the things I tell every time. I wrote, I want Oreos 10 times. I was obsessed. I just really wanted some Oreos. I can tell you, my husband was in college. He was working 3 jobs. I was a piano teacher to 30 kids at the time. We had 2 little kids, 1 car. We were broke, $30 a week budget. And all I wanted was Oreos because I thought if I could afford Oreos, my life would be in control. And that is what the power of a thought understanding is, because this thought was not making me happy. But what it was is I didn't feel in control of my own life. So you have to identify the patterns of what keeps showing up so that then you can rewrite them. So then you're creating, I am in control of my life. I dictate my happiness, not Oreos. You get to take back the power through rewriting the thoughts and creating positive affirmations and life-giving thoughts and affirmations. So this is a tool that I use every day, all the time in my life still, that has been massively transformational. And then having so many people on my podcast, honestly, it's all the same. It's, again, back to the meditation. It's the journaling. It's the thought work. It's the spiritual work. And as I mentioned before, I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I know how to get there. You have to be able to answer these things. And when you find clarity to those things, all the other noise starts to go away really quick. So those are some of the tools.
It's so good that I'm glad you said that, because I've used your journal before. I'm a spiraler, so I spiral in my thought process. So just having a way of keeping it all concise has been very helpful to me. So if you guys need to go on that link and get that, because it is amazing. The prompts are exactly what you need, and how it's laid out is just, it's perfect. But again, switching again. For all the ladies who want to start a podcast, because you all have something to share, what would those steps be? And this is how I first met you.
Yeah. So first thing is, most of my clients, when they come to me, because I'm a podcast coach, once you get something down, you start to realize, oh, people need this. So, and I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I'm like, oh, why not try that? But one of the things I notice most about my clients when they first come to me is they're like, I want to start a podcast for me. And this is why. And they have all these reasons. And one of the first shifts we do is, who are you serving and why? Who are you doing this for? Not for you. Because podcast listeners, they're consuming things that educate them or entertain them. So which one are you going to do? And if it's for you, I don't take these clients anymore when I do a call with them and they're like, no, I just want to have fun. Or I just want, yes, have fun. Of course, have fun. It should be joyful and fun. But if you're not serving the person, you're never going to be able to build that audience. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing. I mean, the number one podcasts in the world right now are crime podcasts because people like entertainment. So you don't have to be all serious about this, but you have to know what you're doing for your person. So that's the first thing you should ask yourself is, what am I doing for my person? And then the second is, what would you enjoy? Okay, so this is what I'm doing for them, but how will I enjoy it? For me, I love having deep conversation. I'm a great podcaster. Put me in a room where we're just socializing for a morning and I'm like, well, this is awkward. I don't know what to say. Because if we're not talking about your deepest, darkest struggles and how you overcame them, I don't know what to say. It's very awkward for me. So I love deep conversation. I knew that right away. And I knew that by having deep conversation, I could help other people see patterns. I could point those out. How did they work through it? What did they do? How are they surviving it? See, I do like to make people cry, but I like the emotional. It's like a good book, right? There's the struggle, then there's the victory, and then there's, this is how we overcome it and we have hope now. I like the journey. That's what I like. I want to understand the journey. So what do you enjoy? What could you do 1,000 times over and never tire of it? And if you can answer those two questions, now you got a podcast. You can do it on your phone in the closet over and over and over. And there are so many different opinions on, should you have a trailer? Should it be long? Should it be short? Should it be whatever? Those are things to get coached through because you got to do what's right for you. Again, there are so many ways to be successful. I will say, if you're not on Apple Podcast, you're not a podcaster. That is a firm, you got to be on Apple because that's the number one place that people go to for podcasts. So be on Apple. But yeah, that's what you need to start a podcast. And podcasting has been the best thing in the world. I have made my closest friends by asking them to be on the podcast, having those beautiful conversations. And now we're like soul bound afterwards. And I tell them sometimes, like, now you're my best friend. Lucky you. But they are some of my best friends because we talked real, and real conversation is rare in this world.
So to piggyback off of that last question, when you were first starting, one of the biggest, I think fears that people have, especially when, they're starting their own podcast, is how am I going to get a guest and who should my guest be and all of these kinds of things. Share with us some of your experiences with guest speakers and some of the best speakers that you've had and some that fell flat and you thought, why? And you were expecting something different.
Okay, so guesting, this is one of those like myths out there for podcasting, because here's the deal. If you have a platform and you're like, hey, do you want to come on? I have an audience of 1,000 people or 50 people. How many speakers are thrilled to speak to a room of 100 people, 200 people? 100? That's what you're offering them for free from the comfort of their own home. And so it's very easy to get guests. This is one of those things. I have every guest that I've ever wanted. And I thought, oh man, that would be a reach for the stars, has happened. The only ones that are hard to get are the ones where they have many layers of protection around them. So many assistants, so many managers, so many this, so many that. Those are harder to get to. But even some of those you can circumvent pretty quickly by going on social media. And you have to know how their interests and your interests align. That's how you get a good guest. So I look up someone, I follow them, I get to know them, or hopefully I already know them, right? There's someone I already admire. They have knowledge that I want or that I think would be helpful for my audience. And so I will reach out to them. I did it to a singer that I adore yesterday for the Hope Summit, which is an event we're doing next year. And I just sent her a little video. I was like, hey, this is literally how it goes. Hey, I think you're amazing. And I love this and this and this about you. And I have a podcast. And my podcast is called The Strong and Capable. And we help men and women feel and learn how to become strong and capable. You do this and this and this. And I love it. And I think a conversation, a quick 20-minute conversation about that could be phenomenal. If you're interested, just drop your email and I will send you one. That's it. That's the pitch. And it's exactly like that. And 9 times out of 10, they say yes. 9 times out of 10. Because why wouldn't they? We're going to have great conversation and their interests and my interests align. This is fun all day long. And telling them how long is important too. Because I can tell you now, as an experienced podcaster, when someone approaches me and says, we need to do a pre-podcast interview for 2 hours, and then it's going to be an hour long, and it's going to be this, and I'm like, sorry, I love you. Nope. You should be able to see from my social media who I am and if it works. And if you can't, I don't have time. I'm running. I got stuff to do. So giving them that clear, this is what I need from you to make this amazing thing happen really helps. So as far as some of the ones that have been good and bad, my favorite podcast guest and my audience's favorite are local heroes. So people that are maybe a leader, like one of the leaders in this group, one of your ladies, I could have them on and talk about this group, right? And what they're doing here. Or one of my very favorites, and one of my first episodes actually ever, her name was Erin Horn. Erin Horn had cancer. And Erin had cancer during COVID. And she has 3 little children. She watched her baby learn to take her first steps from the hospital window. She was an incredible guest. Her understanding of life and her love for people and desire to change the world were so powerful that to this day, she's one of my favorites. I didn't know at that time. I've also had most of my mentors on. Danelle Delgado, we're working on it. She said she'd do it. So we just got to get it. We got to get it worked out. But
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. I've had most of my mentors on. Interestingly enough, most of those big names and mentors and whatnot, lower numbers, because they're not as interested in promoting my podcast as the local hero. They're like, yeah, I did 5 today. I remember literally one of my mentors, she's like, you're my 5th one today. She's not gonna promote this. So people, and also they're more experienced. So you don't get a lot of authenticity sometimes from people who do this all the time. They're more on a talk track. It's a little harder to pull out the authenticity. So local heroes are my favorite. And for the record, Danelle is my mentor right now. And I believe it would be an authentic podcast. She's not going to show up fake. It would be amazing. So I'm not counting her as that. Yeah, I'm not counting her as that. But so yeah, those are getting guests and kind of how guests go. Danelle Delgado.
Yeah. Now, for all of us, we're in the real estate space, most of us. And we have been asked to be on podcasts before. We've been asked to speak on stages, asked to be a guest, or some of our friends want to have us on their Zooms. What do you think is important, or could you give us something to help being a guest on a podcast or a Zoom call or webinar?
Okay, I'm going to give you some technical ones really quick because you women are professionals. And so I don't normally share this. This is more of a one. If we were actually coaching together, I would talk you through. Do not say right. Women tend to I'm going to tell you a story and then I'm going to tell the things, right? I even do it. Right? Yes, people, you are highly intelligent. People will understand you. They will know what you're talking about. You don't need to verify it. Right actually shows that you are questioning your own thing. So don't do right or, that's another one, So, and ums aren't even that bad because most of us aren't going to have a lot of those. Again, I believe this group is a little more experienced than your average person. So ums aren't so bad. It's more knows and rights. A professional speaker gets triplets. Instead of doing ums, rights, or knows, they start going, so, and then they'll go right into it. So you start to see patterns. So watch your rights and your no's, trust yourself that you have a message. And before you go on, have a message. What is your story? How did you get to where you are right now? What led you here? You have a heart and a passion, and women are so cool because we're not scared of our emotions. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about the struggle. We'll talk about how, man, I was here and now I'm here. And this is why I do what I do. People will remember your story more than they'll remember your technical, whatever you're going to share. And then I like to have concrete tips. What are my 3 takeaways, my 2 takeaways, my 1 takeaway? Don't be windy. Make sure you have 3 things that you know will help the audience if you want to be a good speaker. And that's also a great way to pitch yourself. I have these 3 things I know will help your audience, and I would love to share them. So that's another way to get on podcasts, is to know clearly what you have to share. It makes it easy for them to say yes or no. And a no isn't bad. I say no to a lot of people who pitch me because it's not the right fit for my audience, even if they think it is. A no just means they don't think you're a right fit. So it could come around another time, and I've done that too. I've come back to guests and said, you know what? This season actually is a good fit. Why don't you come back? You also have to be brave enough to be willing to say, I don't like that. Can we delete it? And this is something, actually, as guests, I want to share this one. For some reason, I'm feeling like you need to know it. Your story is yours to tell. You cannot tell anyone else's story. My first podcast that I ever went on, remember I got Haagen-Dazs and I cried about it? That podcast, I shared how I come from an abusive past. This is what the podcast was about, was childhood abuse. Hello, me, I have it. Let's talk about overcoming and the struggle. I mentioned other people that were involved in this scenario, not thinking about it. I didn't say names. I was very, very, anyone would say, oh, you're fine, but I didn't feel fine about it. So I went to the people who were mentioned kind of and said, this is what happened. This is exactly how I said it. How do you feel? The reaction wasn't great. It was not great. Some of them were like, yeah, do it. And some of them were like, what are you talking about? I didn't go through that, because they were still on their journey. I learned a lot. And I had to go back and say, can we re-record? I cannot have that published. It will hurt other people. So be brave enough to know your story is only your own. And when you've overstepped the boundaries, again, that radical authenticity and honesty with self, be brave enough to go and say, I can't publish that if you do it, because you're never going to be perfect all the time, especially if you're being authentic. There will be times where you do things that you regret later. Most of them you'll probably laugh about, but every once in a while you might have to go back and say, no, thank you, or that didn't work. How can I make this better? And remember, if you made the choice, then for me it was, how can I make this easily fixable for you, is what I said to her. Do we want to re-record? Do you want to just not publish it? That's okay too. I'm not offended. This was a me mess up, So, I just did it. Now I caught myself because I already told you guys not to say it. But be aware of that. And so as long as you're being aware of those things, you'll be a great guest.
That's such great knowledge and nuggets. We are so appreciative of you coming on and talking to us about these wonderful tips, especially for podcasters. So we're going to open it up for questions after this last question here, because I'm sure we do have a lot of people in the audience that want to ask some stuff. But my final question for you is just, how do you stay grounded in your spiritual life?
For me, I'm a little sassy, as we've established. It's a lot of me running forward like a bull in a china shop, and then the Lord being like, oh, so cute, get back here. And I'm all about affirmations and knowing your worth. I believe every person is wanted, needed, and loved. Every person has value. Every person has a message that the world needs. Every person should and needs to make an impact. However, what I had to learn in the last 6 months, and what I found myself, I have a couch behind me. I like on my podcast for you to feel like we're on a couch having a nice chat. I found myself kneeling at my couch and saying, apparently I'm not enough. And this sucks. And I'm having a really hard time with this. So the way I stay grounded is by understanding that I am worthy, that I am loved, that I have value, but that on my own, I'm actually not enough. That I need, me personally, and this is my truth, I need divine assistance to knock this out of the park, to make the impact I want to make, to go next level. And when I release that fully, all of a sudden, all the right things show up in my life. So the way I stay grounded is honestly, my ego has to be pulled into check pretty often. And the ego didn't come. Here's something important. Most of us don't, especially women, do not have ego because we're just so cool. We think we're so cool. No, it's because we've been hurt. And when we're children and we're teenagers and we're young women, our ego keeps us safe. It keeps us protected. It keeps us getting out of bed. It keeps us showing up. And there comes a time where you've grown enough, you've healed enough that you've got to release that to evolve more. And so my ego got me to here. And now the way I stay grounded is by letting go of that.
So good. So good. Well, we want to give time for people to ask any questions. So now is the time for those of you that have been listening to Brigette's story to, unmute yourself, raise your hand, do whatever you got to do. And let's see if we can get some questions answered before we end tonight. McGenna?
Yeah, I'll raise my hand. I'll follow the rules for a change. So good to meet you, Brigitte.
It's so good to meet you.
Yes, this was amazing. Thank you so much for your generosity. And thank you to the ladies here who bring all these phenomenal women we get to meet and connect and be friends with. How do you monetize podcasting? I think I'm known for asking the hard questions. So I'll ask the real question, because you said that we don't have enough real conversations. I started a podcast about 3 months ago, not to monetize, but to stay connected globally, to involve the audience. And this is why it's unfiltered, unedited, raw. It's pretty much, I bring my friends, because they're all my friends, on a conversation where the audience, wherever they're at, get to ask a question. And as a result, I will be that messenger to include them in a 3-way conversation. But then I hear a lot of these top 1 podcasters and 10% of top podcasters, and then made this much money, that much money. Can you please shed some light on how can someone make a lot of money having a phenomenal podcast? Thank you.
Okay, so if you want, I love this question, and I like that you, like you said, ask the hard question. I get asked this a lot, but it's because so the statistics on podcasts are pretty wild. Most people, like 75%, they're changing all the time, so don't quote me exactly, but they start a podcast and they don't get past 7 episodes. So the amount of podcasts out there, if let's say there's 4 million podcasts in the world, last I had checked, which was a while ago, there were only like 400,000 active podcasts. So you think about that, that's crazy different. It's like everyone in the day who started a blog and wrote 3 blogs and was like, oh, I'm not going to make money on this. This is hard. I'm not going to do it. Same thing's happening in the podcast world. So if you get past 25 episodes, you're usually in the top 50 to 30% of any given category, because you're doing more than most people out there. So monetizing a podcast, being wildly successful the way you're seeing like Ed Milet be, right? He's got a huge name. He's got a ton of people going on. I was listening to one of his the other day. I thought, man, I could have answered these questions. Anyway, so he's got a lot going for him because he already had the contacts. If you've already got the contacts, start there for sponsorships. The people who know you, who trust you, the know, like, and trust factor, right? Start there. If you're not doing sponsorships, which I actually haven't, and my husband the other day told me it's awkward now because I'm 5 seasons in, he's like, you don't sponsor, it's awkward. But I didn't want to. I wasn't, as we've talked about, in a healthy place when I first started to feel confident enough to ask for sponsorships. So the way I monetize my podcast, and the way most people that I know in my industry monetize their podcast, is through what they're offering. Their podcast is their free offer. Their podcast is that free thing that they give all their information. It's the lead in for everything else. So any program you're running, any product you're selling, any coaching you're doing, this is the way that you funnel them to those. And that's how most podcasts are monetizing these days. If they're not an Ed Milet, if you're like that next tier down, then that's how you're monetizing. That's how most women I know monetize their podcasts, men and women. So it's the funnel, and you can easily set up your season for, okay, I know I want this offer to go out, or I want this thing to happen, this event happen. So how am I going to set up my season to take them on the journey so they're ready for this? How can I lead them there? What information can I give them? And then every episode, you're bringing it up, and you naturally will anyway, because you're in that space. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm doing the Hope Summit in April. It is a massive, we keep saying hope times a million, 100,000 viewers. It's a big project. So that means everywhere I go, I'm talking about the Hope Summit because it's on my mind. It's what me and my team are doing. We are in Hope Summit land. So you kind of naturally create your podcast to go in with the products and the services and the events you're doing.
And thank you so much. Yes, and Brenda, I love you. I know you have your hand up, but I feel like one question helps all of us. And my follow-up question to that is, when you bring guests on the show that have their own products, do you set up a profit share that everything that's sold through this episode, then there is a way for everyone to earn? Like how would you handle that? Because I feel it's important for everyone to eat at the table.
Yeah. That's one of the lines from one of my favorite songs right now. Is that there's room for everyone at the table. So I love that. Yes, you can. Affiliates, yes, 100%. Whether you being an affiliate with them, they're being an affiliate with you, 100% you can. I have been lucky, this sounds a little selfish, I'm going to say it anyway, that they weren't currently in program mode. So anything that was going down was going towards me, and I'm happy to share. So like Maria knows, I have a Queen Circle program. I have ambassadors. Anything they sell, they're affiliates. They get money for that. From me, the Strong and Capable is about not a moment, it's a movement. We're creating strong and capable humans. So the more people we can bring to the table, let's get it done. So I think most people, especially women nowadays, are healthy and generous in their business. So yeah, if you can affiliate both ways, do it. Collaboration is way better. Mm-hmm.
So good. So good. Miss Brenda.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. And thank you for being here and telling your story. That's like very powerful. You know, it takes a lot to get out of your comfort zone and saying that, you know, but that's your story. So I love it. One of my question is like, you mentioned says, tell your story, not someone else's. How do you go about that? Because I know like your story is always involved with somebody else's, like it's intertwined no matter what. So how do you go about there? Because I don't want to cancel every episode because it's like it's your story as well.
Yeah, this is a great question, and there's a few ways to go about it. So for example, I mentioned I had child abuse. This was by a grandparent who is dead. So this is easy for me to share that happened because I'm not affecting that person anymore. There are other stories I would like to tell that I cannot tell because the people are very much alive, and this would destroy their world if I were to share this thing that happened to me because of them. And so I know that there are stories for me that will be part of my later evolution. So you kind of got to sort through what are the right ones to tell now, what are the ones, and you can make that choice. I have many clients who have said this might destroy their world, and they're like, I don't care. I'm like, okay, that's a personal choice. Like, you get to decide your journey. For me, my choice was to wait on some of those stories. And then the last thing is, you can always just tell it from your perspective. This happened to me. This is what I experienced. It doesn't matter if siblings, cousins, aunts, moms, dads were involved. If you're saying, I went through this and this is how it made me feel. One of the huge things about storytelling in this way is, and this is important, and especially all of you, because you're going to be storytellers and go on so many podcasts and create podcasts, I know it. Less details is more. How many of you have been in a room where they're like, I was shopping one day and I don't know, my credit card declined. It was so embarrassing. And then And you're like, oh yeah, maybe you've never had that happen, but maybe you have. And you're like, oh yeah, that's horrible. It's like the worst thing that could happen. And then they start going into more details. They're like, oh no, I don't relate to that. Oh, nope, don't understand that. Nope. So instead of you feeling close to the person, which is the intention of the story, you actually start separating yourself and have no relation to them because they're sharing details. So me saying I have childhood abuse relates to a lot more people than me getting really specific about what, when, where, how. You don't need details. You think you do. You don't. You need emotion. I was devastated. I was hurt. I didn't know who I was. Those are things that you women probably can relate to. If I get detailed, now we don't have that same connection. So telling your own story is less details, more emotion, and more journey of healing. That's how people will relate to you.
Great. So I see Barbie and Liz have their hand up next. So go ahead and unmute.
Yep. Hi, guys. Hi, Brigette. Did I say your name correctly?
You did, and I would have answered to it if you hadn't.
Okay. I want to work on that. Two questions that came up while you were speaking was, number one, we are capital raisers for real estate investments, and we've talked about who our avatar is, who our audience is. Who is your avatar, if you have one? And the second piece of that is just starting out, what cadence do you recommend that we put podcasts together and distribute those?
The avatar. Okay, these are two good questions. Totally different. So if I get sidetracked, you might have to remind me. I'm totally have ADHD. You probably have already guessed it. And I have to wait, what were we talking about? A lot. Avatar. This is an interesting one for me because I have been in so many classes with so many podcasts where they want you to name her Susie, who goes to Target or Walmart and spends $30, and like they want you to get so granular with it. And here's what I can tell you. I hate that. I hate being put in a box. I don't like it. It makes me upset. And every time I try and do it, the divine is like, no, don't do that. But what I can tell you is your avatar, you can understand, again, back to the emotions. Where are they at emotionally? Where are they at in their financial journey? So you're raising capital. So where do they have to be in their financial journey for this to make sense for them? Where are they emotionally? Where are they physically? Where are they financially? You don't have to get Susie who shops at Target and only buys, I don't know what, I can't even think because that makes me like want to throw up, but to get that granular. But you can understand exactly where your person's at emotionally. And that's for me, strong and capable. We have 3 clear things we're working on. We're working on hope, we're working on confidence, we're working on leadership. And depending on those 3 things, where you're at in your journey depends on the experience that you're going to participate in the strong and capable world. And I know exactly for each of those things where my person's at. So that's what I would recommend, is think about the logistics where they're at more than their
who
they shop and what they wear.
Okay, so
and then the second one was totally different. What was it?
What's the cadence? Like, how often should we do trying every day, once a week, like once a year? I mean,
this is a great question. So the answer is up to you, but with the caveat of what can you sustain? How back to your person, what is their attention span? What are they doing? Are they in the car? Are they at a business meeting and they're listening when they're in the bathroom, like my husband? Like where are they? What are they doing? Because if they're only listening from point A to point B, they got maybe 15-20 minutes. You can't go beyond that, or else they will not ever finish an episode. And then they start feeling, this is real. Podcast audience starts feeling guilty because they haven't completed the episode. And then after they're like 3 or 4 behind, they stop listening altogether. So think about them very clearly. And then of course, what can you do? So my mentor, she made me do 2 a week, 1 personal, 1 with a guest for our first season. My first season had like 50 episodes. Notice I said I have 108 in 5 seasons. So after first season, I was like, never again. I hate this. I don't like this. I'm not doing it. So I have anywhere from 8 to 15 episodes a season now, and I do 2 seasons a year. And they're anywhere from 20 to 35 minutes because that's the most, honestly, I get bored with the conversation by then too. So it's that's what my audience can handle. That's what I can handle. And I love it. So what can you handle? And then the last thing is consistency. I work with a lot of spiritual women, and they like to say, I will just do as the spirit directs. I'm like, that doesn't work for your audience. That's so cute. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So do as the spirit directs and do 5 in one day, but then release them once a week. Do what you got to do, but stay consistent. No, I'm going to go from January to March and I'm going to release once a week, or I'm going to do twice a month, the 1st and the 15th. That's payday. So we're going to motivate them on payday. Whatever you're going to do, decide it and stay with it.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
So good. All right, Shirley, you've been waiting so patiently.
Oh, good.
Shirley.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Brigette, for that awesome story that catapulted you to what you're doing now. It's so powerful. My question is, what keeps you up at night still?
What keeps me up at night still is I have a lot of not enoughness still in me. Is it enough? Is it enough? Will it be enough? Is it impacting enough that they'll stay, that it'll matter long term? My favorite song that I listen to every day, you guys are getting all the good stuff, is Glorious by Macklemore. But the words say, I heard you die twice. Once when they bury you in the grave, and the second time is the last time that somebody mentions your name. So when I leave here on this earth, did I take more than I gave? Did I do it for the people, or did I do it all for fame? And that is like, runs through me constantly. I want to make sure I die twice. I want to make such an impact that the strong and capable, like I said, it's not a moment, it's a movement, that people are changed. And because they're changed, they change other people. Because they're healed, they heal other people. That for me matters. So I don't know if that helps, but that's what keeps me up at night.
Definitely.
Is it enough?
That's great. Thank you.
I love your honesty on that one, Brigette. And it kind of leads me into my last thing, which is Brigette. She's got so much going on. So if you want to, you should scan her QR code, because that'll take you directly to her link with all of the amazing things she's doing. She talked a little bit about the Hope Summit, which, I mean, she's just amazing. She's starting an event. It's called Hope Summit, and it's in 2024. It's in April. So that's the first thing that I want you all to mark your calendars for. It's going to be amazing. But coming up, we have Confidently Me 2023. It's a conference for women to help be as confident as you can into the new year. And I'm excited about this event because someone you may know might be speaking at it. So as Trevor always says, he always puts in a shameless plug. I put in a shameless plug for myself. So
I'm glad you did.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I hope to see you there, because it's going to be an amazing conference talking more about a little bit of the teachings that Brigette talked about today. It's going to be like this times a million. There is a code, Maria10 will get you something. I don't know. Brigette, do you remember? Is it 10% off?
It gets you 10% off. Yeah.
That makes sense. But thanks, guys. I hope to see you there. But if you want to connect with her, that is her link tree. We will send it out with the recording. I want to make sure you all get her information, because she is a phenomenal human, and we are so excited. I don't want to reach out to the Facebook Live audience. Thank you so much for being a part of today. This is something we've done new. So we've got Facebook Live and this amazing group here. We meet the first and third Tuesdays of every month, and we're so thankful that you are here. We hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving, and we can't wait to see you in 2 weeks. So see you all. Thank you again, Brigette. Thank you to all our She Wonderful women, and we hope you have an amazing evening. Thanks, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanksgiving.
Bye, guys.